I am back with another rebuild in 2K25 of the Kobe Bryant era. Um, Today, I'm really excited because it is the Boston Celtics. I moved to Boston to go to school in 1995 and quickly became a fan of the team. Um, they were absolutely huge. The fans in Boston are fanatic, um, pun intended. I quickly became a fan and followed the team. I loved when they drafted Paul Pierce. Um, I was there when he was stabbed, and it was all in the news. And when he came back so quickly, the Boston fans went crazy because of how devoted he was to coming back to the team and playing hard, and everyone loved him. I was not a big fan of Antoine Walker. Um, he was a guy who seemed like he wanted to be the alpha on the team, and he was not an alpha. He made a lot of poor choices on shooting, made a lot of mistakes that cost the team games, and never really liked Antoine Walker much as a player. So I'm going to rebuild this team. Paul Pierce is the only player that I absolutely want to make sure is on the team for the full rebuild. You look at when they won the championship with Paul Pierce, it was surrounding him with a versatile forward who could rebound and play great defense, and a pass first point guard, and a great all around team. And they won the championship. So I'm going to try to mimic what they did in getting Kevin Garnett and Rajon Rondo, and hopefully do better than I did in the Cavaliers rebuild, which was really disappointing. So with that, let's go into a history and facts about the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics were founded in 1946 as one of the league's original 8 teams. Celtics are commonly regarded as the most successful team in NBA history and hold the record for most NBA championships won, with 18, and most recorded wins of any NBA franchise. Forget the 2008 Garnett Allen Pierce crew. The original Big Three was the holy trinity of the 1950s. Red Auerbach, a cigar-puffing coach GM who invented trash talking with his bench. Bill Russell, who casually collected 11 championships like they were Pokemon cards. And Bob Cousy, whose dribbling wizardry made defenders look like they were skating on ice. In 1956, the Celtics drafted Bill Russell, Casey Jones, and Tommy Heinsohn. It was like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. Also, Heinsohn earned Rookie of the Year because Russell was too busy redefining defense and rebounding. From 1957 to 1969, the Celtics won 11 titles in 13 years. It was so unfair that the league should have renamed the championship trophy the Boston Invitational. Bill Russell won so much he had to invent new ways to celebrate without sounding bored. Then Larry Bird joined in 1979, and boy, did things get interesting. The hick from French Lick made trash talking an art form. Once, he told opponents exactly where he'd shoot the game-winning shot. Spoiler, he nailed it. Also, he played a game left-handed, just because. Red Auerbach didn't just build teams, he schemed. He drafted Larry Bird in 1978, even though Larry wanted to stay in college. Red was like, cool, we'll wait. And the Celtics became unstoppable in the 80s. The Celtics-Lakers rivalry has always been chef's kiss. In the 1980s, Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird was like basketball soap opera with championships, behind-the-back passes, and so much trash talk. It's also where Boston learned to hate Showtime and Kareem's goggles. The original Boston Garden wasn't just a basketball arena, it was an experience. No air conditioning, dead spots on the parquet floor, and a rat population that probably had season tickets. Yet opponents feared it because the crowd was louder than a rock concert. After Bird retired, the 90s were rough. Len Bias, a can't-miss rookie, tragically passed away before playing a game. Then Reggie Lewis, a rising star, also died. By the late 90s, fans clung to the nostalgia of past titles like a worn-out Celtics jersey. Paul Pierce was drafted in 1998. bringing hope to the franchise. Nicknamed the Truth, Pierce played like a man possessed, scoring in every way possible. Sadly, the Celtics' 2002 playoff run ended in heartbreak, but at least Pierce gave them swagger again. And that leads us into today's rebuild, where hopefully we'll be able to add some banners to the rafters in TD Garden. Here we are in 2002, and here is the Boston Celtics roster. It is not great. It's a mess. It has a bunch of bad contracts. Yeah, where to start? Well, as usual, I'm going to start with trying to get a better draft pick for the 2003 draft and see who I can add to the team in the draft. So let's go check out if the Pistons will part with their Grizzlies pick. And they will not. So I'm going to have to see what other options there are to get a good pick in the 2003 draft. I was able to figure out a trade that worked for the Detroit Pistons for getting that Grizzlies pick. I had to give up my 2005 first-round pick, 3 second-rounders, Walter McCarty and Bruno Sundov. Not a bad trade. Sundov, decent backup center. McCarty is a decent backup small forward, so I definitely gave up a couple of pieces off the bench in order to do this, plus that 2005 pick. Not really concerned about the second-round picks. So now the roster looks a little bit different, and not really happy with having to play a couple of the generated players. So we're going to have J.R. Bremer at the point, Tony Delk, shooting guard, Paul Pierce at small forward, Antoine Walker at power forward, Vin Baker, 74 overall, and on an awful contract that I'm definitely going to look at fixing in the offseason. Starting center, we picked up Cherokee Parks, John Crotty, Melvin Ely, Trepanier, and still have a generated player. So I'm going to move to a 9-man rotation. So now I don't have any of those generated players in there. Not a great roster. Definitely not a deep roster. Very top-heavy in Paul Pierce and Antoine Walker, and that's it. So I'm going to play out this first season. Maybe stopping at the trade deadline if I need to see if I can pick up anything. Otherwise, I'll see at the end of season number 1. So in the 2002 to 2003 season, the Boston Celtics in real life went 44-38. And I did a little bit better than that, which is surprising with this roster. But Tim Duncan won the MVP for year 1, Yao Ming as the Rookie of the Year, Mike Miller as the 6th player, Ben Wallace as Defensive Player of the Year, Ricky Davis as Most Improved, Jack Sampson, and I won Executive of the Year, going 49-33. Kind of a surprising first season. I'm, quite shocked at this, actually. So Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Shaquille O'Neal make up your All-NBA first team, All-NBA second team. Paul Pierce made it to All-NBA third team. Nobody on All-Defensive first team or second team from the Celtics. And nobody... Oh, J.R. Bremer, starting point guard, made All-Rookie second team. So Boston is the 3 seed. Let's take a look at the standings. Came in third. So happy with that. Don't know how I won Executive of the Year, except maybe just exceeding expectations, including my own. The Nets went 58-24 for the first seed, and the Miami Heat were last with 26 and 56. In the Western Conference, San Antonio Spurs, as usual, 59-23, came in first, and the Portland Trailblazers came in last at 20-62. So, yeah, still in shock that the team did this well with only a couple of really good players on the team. And they, like I said, very top-heavy team. 27.6 for Paul Pierce and 26.3 for Walker. And then they had Delk at 10.7, Jared Bremer at 9.5. Vin Baker did better than expected as center. Well, maybe not better than expected. That rebound is really low. Top in rebounds was Antoine Walker at 7.6, Paul Pierce at 7.1, and then Vin Baker, starting center, at 6.6 rebounds a game. Assists went to John Crotty, who was the backup point guard. Steals to Paul Pierce, and blocks to Vin Baker. So, our first opponent, let's clean up the... Tony Delk is hurt to start off the playoffs. Let's see how well we can do. I guess that's fine for a 9-man rotation. It is the Orlando Magic with Darrell Armstrong, Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill, Pat Garrity, and Sean Kemp at center. Game one, game two. They win game three. They tie it up. They won 3 in a row. And we go to a game 7 in round 1 of year 1 of this rebuild. And the Boston Celtics are eliminated in round 1 against the Orlando Magic of year 1. And the Orlando Magic, a 6th seed, went on to win the championship with Tracy McGrady winning the Finals MVP. I don't think I have seen this before in the Kobe Bryant era, where the Orlando Magic win the NBA Finals in this first year. So all around shocking season. So we'll go into off season number 1. Steve Kerr, a lot of the usual first year retirees are not there. Just some branding changes, no rule changes, and let's see about the draft. So we have a potential 12 and 4, and we end up at the 4 position, which is perfect because I can take the player I was intending to take, and the 22nd pick as well. Yeah. So, head coach, Ricky Jones. He's got an 80 balance, so not bad. I might just let him... Oh, gosh, he's got 3 more years on his contract. I don't know if Popovich will sign. I never get him to be able to sign. And I think the others are going to kind of be a downgrade. So I'm going to stay with Ricky Jones for 1 more year. So in this draft, Dwayne Wade is ranked first, which is interesting. We have a generated player at 5th. Let's see if I can make any trades before we start the draft. I am going to go with this trade, pick up a first-round pick with the Nuggets for next season, trade away Antoine Walker, and pick up a true defensive center and Marcus Camby to try to get rid of Vin Baker. I'm going to make this trade with the Los Angeles Clippers and pick up a backup center in Michael Olowokandi for Vin Baker and a generated player that I'll try to get a second round draft pick for. Okay, so going into the 2003 NBA draft with the number 4 pick and the number 22, Dwayne Wade gets selected first by the Denver Nuggets. LeBron James goes to the Miami Heat. Carmelo Anthony goes to the Portland Trail Blazers. And I am going to take Chris Bosh with the number 4 pick. Generated player Wilson Hardy is 5. Kirk Heinrich. So the Atlanta Hawks are trading Sharif Abdul-Rahim and Theo Ratliff and getting Chris Kaman. Actually, that's not a bad trade. Usually teams make dumb trades at the beginning of this draft, but that wasn't that egregious. Michael Petrus and Nick Collison. I'm going to go ahead and sim to my pick and see who's here. I already have a backup center, so I don't need him. Luke Ridnour as a backup point guard might not be a bad idea. And same thing with Steve Blake. Or get a shooting guard that can actually shoot in Kyle Korver. I think I'm going to do that. Pick up Kyle Korver with my second pick in this first draft. So picked up Chris Bosh and Kyle Korver in the 2003 draft. We have no team options. Qualifying offer for Trepanier. Well, I'll give him the qualifying offer. And I'm going to clean up the roster a bit with these generated players before doing the first free agency. So I cleaned up the roster, and it's pretty gutted at this point. Don't have a point guard at all and need backups at the small forward and power forward position. And that's if I want to keep Korver as the backup or let him develop coming off of the bench for the season. So point guard, small forward, power forward. So in this first free agency, I was able to pick up Reggie Evans, Jason Terry as my starting point guard, which is a fantastic upgrade. And then Steve Smith, who I'm going to move to small forward as the backup for that position. After the first free agency of this rebuild, after season 1, I am pretty happy with the upgrades of the roster. Paul Pierce at an 87 overall. Jason Terry goes up by 3 for an 86. Marcus Camby goes up by 1 in his age 29 season, so that's kind of surprising. Chris Bosh will be the starting power forward, and Tony Delk will be the starting shooting guard. Olowokandi and Evans each went up by 1. Steve Smith I moved to small forward, and he stayed the same. He is not regressing at 34. Kevin Ollie will be the backup point guard, and Kyle Korver at the backup shooting guard, and then a bunch of veteran players to fill out the roster. So I think it's a good combination of players, but from an overall standpoint, they don't look great. But I think this team will do pretty well. 3.5 star balance. So I'm going to leave it at balanced. I'm going to make it a 10-man rotation so that Kyle Korver gets some time. So he'll be getting 11 minutes to start off the season. So we're looking at Terry, Delk, Pierce, Bosh, and Camby. Looking at these players, I mean, Delk, defensive player. Jason Terry is a fantastic point guard. Paul Pierce and Chris Bosh at the small forward and power forward, and a defensive and rebounding specialists in Camby. In the center, Steve Smith, Olowokandi, Evans, Ali, and Korver. Not exactly high ratings from a bench, but I think it's a good combination of players. So we'll see what happens. Season number 2 went pretty well. I basically gutted the Boston Celtics. Only had a few players left from the original team that I took over at the start of the 2002 season. And in the second season of this rebuild, won 52 games. So I'm really happy with how that team gelled because their chemistry was awful to start the season. Lost a whole bunch of the first 10 games and then finished the season strong, ending up with 52 wins. Kevin Garnett wins the most valuable player. LeBron James, Rookie of the Year. Eddie Curry is sixth player. Ben Wallace is defensive player. Tony Parker is the most improved player. Don Nelson and the Celtics executive wins executive of the year. So that's 2 in a row, which is a pretty good way to start off a rebuild. The All-NBA first team have Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady, Kevin Garnett, Chris Webber, and Yao Ming. All-NBA second team, All-NBA third team. Conspicuously missing are both Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. That has me wondering. All-NBA are all defensive first team. Ron Artest, Wade, Korolenko, Webber, and Wallace. Second team. The rookies, which is the top 5 players from the last draft, so that one makes sense. And then Pietrus, Ford, Heinrich, Wilson Hardy, the generated player, and Lothar Schumacher, also a generated player, on the all-rookie second team. So, at 52 wins, have the 3 seeds. So first, let's take a look at the standings. Miami Heat went from last to first in the Eastern Conference. I guess it really helps that they got LeBron James to add to this roster, which looks pretty good. Indiana Pacers also had a 52-30 record. And then coming in last, the New York Knicks. In the Western Conference, with the Grizzlies, who were horrible last year as well. But without adding too many players, look much better. Phoenix Suns, Dallas Mavericks, the Utah Jazz coming in last in the West, and the Los Angeles Clippers. And then as far as stats go in season number 2, Paul Pierce, 21.6. Jason Terry added the point guard, and he made a big difference, 17.5. Chris Bosh in his rookie year, 15.9 points. Olowokandi, backup center, 11.1. Kyle Korver, backup shooting guard, 10.4. Not a bad rookie season for the second pick that we had in the last draft. Marcus Camby, who is out for the season with a broken right ankle. Great. Led the team in rebounding. Bosh came in second. Jason Terry and Kevin Ollie, the 2 point guards, 7.6 and 3.9 on assists. Steals a little bit low, and blocks, Marcus Camby. So he played 77 games before breaking his ankle. Oh, that stinks. So Olowokandi will be starting. Let's take a look at this. Yeah. Don't really want Jim Jackson playing. So I'm going to move it to a 9-man rotation. Jason Terry at 38, Paul Pierce at 39, Bosh and Olowokandi at 30. Not bad on the minutes. Kyle Korver is going to be playing 19 off of the bench. Okay, so first team up is the Toronto Raptors with Alvin Williams, Vince Carter, Morris Peterson, Michael Bradley, and Hakeem Olajuwon, who I think is 41 at this point in his career. And we lose in the first round to the Toronto Raptors. Feels like the Cavaliers rebuild all over again. How do we lose to the Toronto Raptors? And the Dallas Mavericks beat the Miami Heat. Steve Nash winning the MVP. Wow, I can't believe the Heat lost because this team is pretty darn good. Steve Nash, Nick Van Exel, Michael Finley, Dirk Nowitzki, and Sean Bradley, with P.J. Brown, Jamal Magloire, James Jones, Adrian Griffin. They have a pretty good roster as well. Okay, let's go into offseason number 2. John Stockton, Karl Malone, Charles Oakley, Horace Grant, Michael Jordan. Oh, man. Loved watching all of those players. Hall of Fame is Jordan, Malone, Robinson, and Stockton. They also all get their jerseys retired. And we are adding the Charlotte Bobcats as an expansion team. The lottery have Denver's pick and number 8 on the chances and end up with pick number 9. So not a great pick, but it's still in the lottery. Also have pick number 17, pick number 26. To protecting players for the expansion draft of the Charlotte Bobcats, it is recommending Kevin Ollie, who's 31. I mean, Olo Candy did so well as the backup big, but his contract kind of stinks. Still at $5.5 million for a backup center. But Camby got hurt, so need a decent backup center. Yeah, I'll go with Kevin Ollie. So Tyronn Lue goes first. Jerome Williams. Yeah, the Bobcats look like they're going to be bad. Go figure. Right into the draft and see what we can get. Luol Deng goes first to the New Orleans Hornets. Emeka Okafor to the Los Angeles Clippers. J.R. Smith goes third. That's surprising, to the Atlanta Hawks. We have a trade. Mashburn. And Moochie Norris gets traded for the 4th overall. And the Hornets are taking Devin Harris. Dwight Howard to the Knicks. Chris Humphries. Jameer Nelson. Anderson Varejao. Okay, so who do we have some choices here? I'm going to go with Sean Livingston as backup point guard. Ben Gordon goes next. Bino Udrih. So I can still take Josh Smith as my second pick to back up. Now, I don't need a backup power forward. So Sean Livingston was the only pickup from the second draft. I have no new player options, no qualifying offers. So let's see what the roster looks like now. Jason Terry and Livingston at point. Delkin Corver. Shooting guard. Need a backup small forward. Need to unload this Whitehead contract. I'm going to pick up Gerald Wallace to back up Paul Pierce at the small forward position, and then just fill out the roster with some veterans. For player progression, Paul Pierce goes up by 1. Jason Terry stays the same. Bosch goes up by 3. Camby goes up by 1 at age 30. Korver jumps up 5. So he will be the starting shooting guard. Wallace goes up by 1 to back up Paul Pierce. Olowokandi, Delk, Livingston at 74, and Reggie Evans. So here is the roster lineup for going into season number 3. Jason Terry, Tony Delk, which surprises me that they don't want to start Kyle Korver. So he's going to be the 6th man. Paul Pierce, Chris Bosh, and Camby, who was hurt for the playoffs last year. Got Korver, Wallace, Olowokandi, Livingston, and Evans rounding up the playing rotation. The first couple of seasons in this rebuild have not gone according to plan. Made the playoffs both seasons, executive of the year both seasons, so exceeded expectations, but out in the first round in both seasons. So hopefully the progression that the players have made and the draft picks that I've made so far will progress a little bit better this season, and we'll do well in season number 3. I'll see you guys at the end of the season. Continuing to improve year after year. Season number 3 ended pretty well with 55 wins. Tracy McGrady has won the MVP, 38 points a game. That's fantastic. Dwight Howard, Rookie of the Year. Kurt Thomas, 6th Player of the Year. LeBron James wins Defensive Player of the Year and Most Improved Player after winning Rookie of the Year. Don Nelson and the Celtics Executive of the Year again. So exceeding expectations apparently every year is winning me the Executive of the Year at least. So hopefully that turns into something in the playoffs. Tracy McGrady, Gilbert Arenas, LeBron James, Kevin Garnett, and Shaquille O'Neal make up your All-NBA first team. There is second team and third team, no Celtics. Ron Artest, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kirilenko, and O'Neal. Still no Celtics. There is all-rookie first team and all-rookie second team. Well, we have the 1 seed. Nobody on any of the All-NBA teams. And get the 1 seed. Robert Horry is the only player hurt. We have too many point guards playing. So I'm going to go to a 9-man rotation for the playoffs and bring down the bench utilization a little bit. I am surprised at something. Let's look at the standings first. So had the best record in the East. Milwaukee Bucks are second. The New York Knicks and the Bobcats coming in at the bottom. In the Western, you got the Dallas Mavericks coming in first. And then the Phoenix Suns, Seattle Supersonics coming in last. As far as statistics on the team, we have Paul Pierce at 21.3, Jason Terry at 15.9, Chris Bosh at 15.8, and Kyle Korver coming off the bench at 15.3. Yeah, I was surprised. At the trade deadline, he was scoring 17 points a game and was hoping he'd win 6th man of the year, and that didn't work out. And then Camby, 9.5. Bosh led in rebounds. Camby second. Jason Terry leads the team with 7.5 assists. Steals are still pretty low. Blocks, 1.6 is not great. But we are the first seed. And the first team up is the LeBron James-led Miami Heat with Andre Miller, Deion Glover, Caron Butler, and Alonzo Mourning at center. It's game number 1. The Miami Heat. They take game number 2. We take games 3 and 4 and 5. Okay, Had me nervous with Miami winning those first couple of games. So now we have the Detroit Pistons with Chauncey Billups, Steven Jackson, Jonathan Bender, Carlos Boozer has joined the Detroit Pistons from the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then Ben Wallace. This is a pretty good team. A little bit nervous about this one. So I win the first, the second. Detroit wins the third and the fourth and the fifth and eliminated in the second round. Very disappointing. And the Toronto Raptors have gone on with Kevin Garnett joined the Toronto Raptors with Vince Carter. Are you serious? And he wins the MVP. Alvin Williams, Vince Carter, Morris Peterson, Kevin Garnett, and Josh Smith playing center. Wow. That is a good team, even with Josh Smith at center. Okay, then. Going into off-season number 3, Hakeem Olajuwon has retired at 42. Got Glenn Rice, Vlade Divac, Scottie Pippen, Gary Payton. Some great players retiring. Hakeem, Payton, and Pippen all make the Hall of Fame. Players aren't eligible now until they're 19. No more high school players. And did I trade for... Ooh. So I have New York's pick and Seattle's pick for this draft. Of the third draft, 4, and I have 2 of these picks. Or was that Supersonics one protected? So I get the 4th pick from New York. The Atlanta Hawks pick 3rd. Charlotte Bobcats are picking 2nd. And the Minnesota Timberwolves have won the draft. So I didn't get that Supersonics pick. So I'll have the 4th pick in the draft. A little bit disappointed. Also have the 18th. Not bad. So I picked up a new head coach in Walt Moore, who 4 stars offense, 4 stars defense, a good badge list, and highly rated. So I'm happy with that pickup. So this is the Chris Paul draft. I have the 4th pick. Don't need a point guard, and 3 out of the 4 top players are point guards. Great. Okay, so I have Jason Terry and Sean Livingston signed as point guards. Tony Delk is still signed, and Kyle Korver at shooting guard. Paul Pierce and Gerald Wallace at small forward. I need a backup power forward. And Marcus Camby only has 1 season left on his contract. He's 31, and he's enraged. I don't know if I want to pick up Bogut again. Maybe I'll have 2 seasons out of him. Okay, Chris Paul goes number 1 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Danny Granger goes 2nd to the Charlotte Bobcats. Charlie Villanueva goes to the Atlanta Hawks. And I've got point guards. Okay, I'm going to look at some trades and see what we can do here. I'm going to go ahead and make this trade. Emeka Okafor, 22, much younger player for Camby in the 18th pick. since he's enraged, I'm going to go ahead and make that trade. Since I have the 4th pick in this draft, I'm going to be able to pick up a point guard. I am going to trade away Sean Livingston and Michael Olowokandi and pick up Marcus Fizer to come off my bench, backing up Chris Bosh and Mark Jackson as the backup center going forward. And then go ahead and pick up Raymond Felton to come off of the bench. Johan Petro, Lou Will, Channing Frye, Andrew Bogut goes to the Orlando Magic. Generated player, Andre Blatch. So, only had the one rookie signing in Raymond Felton. Picking up the options on Chris Bosh and Kyle Korver. Reggie Evans, I'm going to let go. And how does the roster look? So Jason Terry with rookie, Raymond Felton backing him up. Yeah, Kyle Korver and Tony Delk still at shooting guard. Paul Pierce and Gerald Wallace at small forward. Bosh and Fizer coming off the bench. And Okafor and Jackson. So I just need to fill out the roster. Off-season 3 is done. So Paul Pierce at 27 goes up by 1. Jason Terry goes up by 1. Chris Bosh by 2. Okafor by 2. And Kyle Korver by 4. So have 6 above 80. Have a very deep team now. Happy with that progression. So here is the lineup for season number 4 of this rebuild. Jason Terry. Kyle Korver is now starting at shooting guard. Paul Pierce at small forward. Chris Bosh and Emeka Okafor. Fizer, Felton, Wallace, Delk, and Mark Jackson coming off the bench. I'm really happy with that, with the bench, especially. And I think Okafor will be at least healthier than Camby was. So I think I have a much improved team. Hopefully we'll see that in record, and I will see you guys at the end of the season. Season 4 exceeded expectations. 62 wins. I thought Camby would have done better as a center. I think the combination of Okafor and Kyle Korver off the bench must have made a big difference. Kevin Garnett is the MVP with the Toronto Raptors. Chris Paul is Rookie of the Year. And Jaron Maxwell is 6th Player of the Year. Generated player. Andrei Korolenko wins Defensive Player of the Year. Anderson Varejao winning Most Improved Player. And then I won... I was hoping to sweep the Executive of the Year awards, but I guess not. Toronto Raptors also won 62 games. But Coach of the Year, Walt Moore on the Celtics. So all NBA first team is Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, and Shaquille O'Neal. And there is all NBA second. All NBA third. And again, no Celtics. Here is all defensive first team. Second team. And rookies with Raymond Felton coming off of the benches, point guard, coming in all rookie second team. So again, we have the number 1 seed over the Toronto Raptors. Miami Heat at 40 and 42 somehow get the 3rd seed. It's interesting how they did division winners over... because that doesn't make any sense that they should be the 3rd seed. Charlotte Bobcats, again, coming in last. In the West, you got the Spurs. Who look like they have a great roster. Coming in first. And the Portland Trailblazers coming in last in the West. So, statistics for the season. Paul Pierce leading the team in scoring at 21.4. Chris Bosh has elevated his game, 18.1. Jason Terry at 17.2. Kyle Korver at 15.7. And Pfizer coming off the bench at 13.7. Okafor, actually kind of disappointing. Rebounds, he comes in second. Chris Bosh is 9.9. Assists, Jason Terry elevated his game as the primary ball handler, 8.9 assists. Paul Pierce at 1.4 steals. Chris Bosh at 1.7 blocks. So not too bad. Let's bring down the bench utilization a bit. Still not playing our starters a ton of minutes. That's because Pfizer and Felton and Wallace are all pretty darn good coming off the bench. Okay, so first up is Indiana, the Pacers. With Brevin Knight, Ron Artest against Kyle Korver, Matt Harpring, Jermaine O'Neal, and Brad Miller. That looks like a really good roster except for Brevin Knight. So how are they an 8 seed? Okay, we take game number 1, game number 2, game number 3. I guess they're not a good roster, and that's why they're an 8th seed. Okay, next up is the Milwaukee Bucks with Nate Robinson, 71 overall, as the starting point guard, Ray Allen, Michael Redd, Tim Thomas, and Jamal Magloire. We take game number 1. They take game number 2. They take game number 3. We tie it up 2-2. They take game and out in round 2. Wow. Is that disappointing? And the Toronto Raptors, again, Kevin Garnett, MVP of season number 4. Really disappointed in this rebuild. Last couple of rebuilds have not gone my way, despite having some good rosters. Latrell Sprewell, who was on the Celtics, has retired. Tony Kukoc, Vin Baker retires from the Clippers. And not many other notable players. George Karl has retired on coaching. No rule changes. And the only possibility of a pick is the Seattle pick at a possible 8. And that's where they stay. So I'll get the 8th pick. Let's go right into the draft. Final draft of this rebuild. Brandon Roy goes first. Andrea Bergnani. Marcus Aldridge, again, going to the Portland Trailblazers, where he went in real life. Rajon Rondo goes 4th to the Atlanta Hawks. Generated player to the Knicks. Nice choice, Knicks. The both Cephalosha. Rashard Lewis in the 37th overall pick for the 7th overall pick. And they take Tyrese Thomas. Interesting trade. Okay, so I have some choices here. Rudy Gay. Kyle Lowry, but I don't need a point guard. Paul Millsap at power forward. I mean, don't need a small forward, don't need a power forward. I mean, Mark Jackson is on the last. I'm going to go ahead and make this trade, swapping the 8 for 10, and then Andrew Bogut for 29th and Tony Delk. Oh, yeah, I'm going to take J.J. Redick. He'll be on the. He won't get many minutes this season unless there's injuries. But why not? Okay, so now let's see what the roster looks like. So we've got Jason Terry and Raymond Felton at point. Corver and Wesley, although he might go down, regress at his 35 here season. Braddock, Pearson, Wallace, Bosch and Pfizer, Okafor, and Bogut. Okay, going into the final season, here is the progression, and this looks fantastic. We got Paul Pierce going up by 2 at 28. Jason Terry going up by 1 at 28. Chris Bosch going up by 3. Okafor 2, Kyle Korver by 2. Pfizer stays the same. Felton goes up by 2. Wallace, Wesley didn't go down as much as I thought he would, and Bogut jumping up by 3. So the progression looks fantastic. Signed some extensions on players. Things are looking great going into the 5th and final season of this rebuild. After a very disappointing rebuild up to this point. 4-star balanced. Give the bench a little bit more. So Jason Terry, Kyle Korver, Paul Pierce, Chris Bosch, and Okafor. So same starters with Pfizer, Felton, Wallace, Wesley, and Bogut. So replacing the bottom of the rotation, but with better players. And yeah, 5th and final season. Hopefully we'll continue to improve. We've improved every year. Had 62 wins last season. Let's see how we do this season. The 5th and final season of this rebuild with the Boston Celtics could not have gone much better. 71-11. So every year in this rebuild, the team has gotten better and better. Definitely the progression of the players made a huge impact on that. Tim Duncan wins the MVP of season number 5. Rudy Gay wins Rookie of the Year. Josh Smith on 6th player. LeBron James, Defensive Player of the Year. Generated Player for Most Improved. That's disappointing. Win for the Celtics coach. And a 60-22 executive beats me out for Executive of the Year. That's disappointing. Dwayne Wade, Tracy McGrady, Tim Duncan, LeBron James, and Shaquille O'Neal are the All-NBA first team. Tony Parker, Ray Allen, Nowitzki, Anthony, and Kaman. And again, no Celtics on any of the All-NBA teams. It's 71-win team and none of the players get any awards. That's fantastic, right? All-NBA second, or All-Defensive second. Here are the rookie first team. They were all at the top of the draft. And there is the rookie second team. Again, we get the first seed, obviously 71-11. Better have gotten the first seed. The Milwaukee Bucks come in second. And the Cleveland Cavaliers are the worst team. Yeah, they don't look like it. I mean, Lou Will and Heinrich, but still have Ricky Davis and Big Z, which are not going to equate to a lot of wins. San Antonio Spurs win 59 games in the West. Minnesota Timberwolves win 46. And the worst team is the Seattle Supersonics, who have a bunch of generated players. They're who I traded. They signed Marcus Camby. They drafted Tyrese Thomas last season. But Tyler Ball is an 86 overall, and he is a generated player. Interesting. And they only won 19 games. Los Angeles Lakers and Kobe really weren't a huge influence on this rebuild, which is abnormal. And they've got a decent team. They're a 7 seed. That is interesting. And as far as statistics on the team, I mean, Paul Pierce, 20.6, no all NBA team. Chris Bosh, 19.4 and 11, not on an all NBA team. Kyle Korver, 17.8. Jason Terry at 17.5. And Pfizer at 14.6. Rebounding, Chris Bosh, 11.2. And assist, Jason Terry at 9. I am unsure why none of these teams warranted an all-NBA team, but I guess not. Okay, let's look at the rotation and bring this down a bit. Whoa. Okafor and Bogut are both hurt going into the playoffs. Whoa. 6 to 8 weeks on Bogut, 1 to 2 weeks on Okafor. So if I can get out of this first round, Okafor will be back. But Potapenko on... No, that's not right. Chris Bosh should be starting. Pfizer. Okay, give Redick some more minutes. Give Pfizer some more minutes. Sorry, Bosh, but you're going to have to play a lot of minutes because we don't have any centers at the moment, and I am not trusting in Potapenko. How did he even do at the end of the season? 2 points per game. In 8 minutes? I mean, did Okafor just get hurt at the very end? Games played. 22? He played 22 games and only scored... Yeah, we can't have him. Okay, first up is the Detroit Pistons. Chauncey Billups versus Jason Terry. Kareem Rush versus Kyle Korver. Bender, Boozer, and Gortat. Not really afraid of the Pistons. Next up is the Philadelphia 76ers. Ronald Murray, Allen Iverson, Rashard Lewis, Keith Van Horn, and Ratliff. Actually, that's a pretty decent roster. Win game 1, win game 2. The 76ers win game 3. Celtics win game 4. And we are in the Eastern Conference Finals versus Milwaukee. Okay, so Okafor is playing again. I didn't check that last round. Sam Cassell, Jason Terry, Ray Allen, Kyle Korver, Pierce to Red. I mean, this is a pretty even generated player there on starting center for the Bucks. Celtics win the first game, the second game, the third game, and we sweep to go to the finals, where we are playing the Sacramento Kings with Mike Bibby, the generated player, Christian Cassell, Peja Stojakovic, Chris Webber, and Nazir Muhammad at center. Chris Webber is the only one I'm really scared of against Pfizer, and Bosh is playing center again. What happened? Okafor is hurt again. But he's day-to-day, and so is Bogut. Okay, game number 1. Okay, happy with that result. Chris Bosh scoring 30 points. Paul Pierce scoring 29. Pfizer with 14. Stojakovic led them with 19, and they shot horribly, so we're doing well on the defense. But still, Bosh is at center. Before going into game number 2. Maybe I should have just played Bosh at center. 130 to 75. That's what I'm talking about. Chris Bosh, 35. Jason Terry, 30, and 16 assists. Fantastic. Paul Pierce scoring 21. Kyle Korver at 15. Bibi and Stojakovic did pretty well, but you look at the rest of the team. I mean, Chris Webber is who I was worried about, and 4 for 16. I mean, they are not going to win like that. Okay, Bogut is back. Bogut is back, so Bosh can move back to the 4 and defend Chris Webber. Game number 3, and again, another demolishing. The defense looks fantastic. Bosh, 14 of 23 for 30 points. Pfizer and Jason Terry, 14 points and 13 assists, but only shot 6 of 15. Korver, 4 for 13. Felton, 4 for 13. Pierce, 1 for 8. Where has Pierce been this whole time with Stojakovic? It's not, the world's best defender. Pierce is just falling flat. I mean, he's got to be defensive. And Okafor is back. Game number 4. Are we going to pull this out in 4? And the Boston Celtics win in season number 5. Thank God I pulled something out of this rebuild. Korver, 20 points. Pierce, 20 points. Okay, that's good. Bosh, 15 and 16, but only 5 of 14 on shooting. Stojakovic and Weber just was nowhere in this whole finals. So the Boston Celtics have won, and Chris Bosh wins MVP for the finals. Playoff statistics: Bosh led. Pierce 20.7. Terry had 17.4 and 10.1 assists. That's awesome. Blocks Bogut with 2 a game. Bosh with 2 a game. So the defense was fantastic. Not overly happy about how this rebuild went. Won Executive of the Year for the first 3 seasons, but that not when we win the championship. I don't know. This was a weird one. Don't know what I could have done better on this. Please leave that in the comments on what I could have done better or what you think caused this. Was it the coaching choices? Couldn't sign a really good coach, so it ended up going, with Walt Moore, who seemed okay. He won a championship, but the other ones I had throughout the rebuild were not great. But the ones that were good, that were available, wouldn't sign with me, so I fired 2 coaches before getting Walt Moore. But all around, a little bit disappointing, and now I'll give myself a bit of a scorecard and how I did on this rebuild. So, scorecard for the Boston Celtics rebuild in the Kobe Bryant era. Team did better and better every single year. The future looks extremely bright. I mean, Jason Terry, 29 years old. Felton still has a couple more years on his contract. Kyle Korver is signed to a really team-friendly deal, and J.J. Redick will be getting better. Wesley will probably fall off, and tradable asset. Pierce and Wallace are both signed for a few more years at small forward. Bosh and Pfizer. Pfizer, again, at 28, signed a really team-friendly deal. Okafor and Bogut, good centers. This team could win. I set them up, I think, to continue winning. They demolished everyone going through the playoffs. At least this season. So I just troubled by not knowing really what went wrong besides the possibility of the coaches. So I won 1 championship. I had 5 playoff appearances, made the playoffs every single year, got better every single year, and 3 Executive of the Year awards. Let's look at... Yeah, so in the first season, went 49-33. Second season, 52-30. Third season, 55-27. Fourth, 62-20, and then topping it off with a 71-win season. Yeah, I don't know. And then as far as a score, took Chris Bosh in that 2003 draft. Only won one championship. I mean, the team's success record was great and all of that. I don't know. I'll give myself a 7 on that. My success, I mean, I only won the one championship, but I'm going to bump that up to a 7.5. Team Future, I think, is one of the best that I've rebuilt. So that puts me at second out of the rebuilds that I've done so far, but somehow it doesn't feel as good because the championships didn't come in this one. So a little bit better than the Chicago Bulls rebuild. Not as good as the Milwaukee Bucks rebuild, where I took Chris Bosh also and ended up with 3 championships. But yeah, disappointing. Leave comments, please, on what you think I did wrong, how I could have done something differently, anything that you saw in the rebuild that, could have led to those flameouts in the first couple of seasons, first 3 seasons. Yeah. So next up is the LA Clippers.